Today we are tasting some of the finest wine in New Zealand, or at least the poshest. Today we are having our breakfast on the Auckland harbour. Yes, despite the absolutely terrible weather, we are about to board the ferry toward the beautiful island of Waiheke. It's the wine mecca of the Auckland area.
As we get onto the Fuller's Ferry and make our way to Waiheke Island, it's not exactly the sunny-filled cruise that we were imagining in our heads, but luckily they do have free Wi-Fi to catch up on a few emails. Luckily, when we arrive on Waiheke Island, the team from Hekerua Lodge, which is the hostel we're going to be staying at while we're here on Waiheke Island, they actually come and pick us up so we don't have to walk in the rain. But we don't get much time to check out the lodge initially. We'll show you guys more about that later, because the guys from Ananda Tours are here to pick us up and take us on a Waiheke wine tour. However, our first stop isn't a winery, it's actually an olive orchard.
So we've got 1,000 trees up there on the hill, and we look after 3,500 around the island.
Almost as soon as we arrive at the Rangiroa estate, which is an award-winning olive oil factory or farm, I don't really know how you call those kind of places, Sarah actually takes the time to take us on a bit of a tour of the facility before we do any tastings. And we are here right on time because literally yesterday they started picking olives. And she actually shows us what happens to the olives once they've been picked. They are being put in those gigantic machines which turns them into oil. It's almost entirely a complete mechanical process. The machine does it all. It takes off the nuts which is inside the oil. I think it's called a nut. And also it takes off all the skins, and it actually separates every single one of those elements because you can use them for a lot of different things. This worker right here tells us that the kind of skin which is around the olive, and which is actually basically just a waste, can be compressed and dried and make amazing kindle for its fire. But you know us, we're here for the tasting, so we are heading back toward the foyer where Sarah's waiting for us for a degustation.
So this is quite herbaceous. You should get a bit of apple peel, sorrel, and then you should finish with a late chili kick. So once you've swallowed, you should get a little bit of heat coming up.
In the tasting foyer with windows overlooking the olive orchards, we get to taste 4 of their international award-winning olive oils. There's bread to dip into them, and they all really taste a lot different. It's quite interesting when you get to taste one after the other. We even get an apple in between so that we can refresh our palate for ultimate tasting. What's really cool though is that Sarah's telling us all about how to actually choose olive oil when you are shopping in the supermarket, which is really handy, as well as how to store it. But moving on, after the oil tasting, we are now going on to our first winery of the day. First up, we are heading to the Stoney Ridge winery, which is one of 26 vineyards that are on Waiheke Island, and it's a really awesome winery with a rustic setting, and the wine tasting itself is very laid back.
It's so casual, in fact, that we are not behind a counter with someone very smartly telling us all about the wines. We are actually sitting on a bunch of couch with one of the team members of the Stoney Ridge winery. It's a really cool, intimate experience where we get to taste all the wine offering that this winery is making. But we're already back on the van toward our next winery. This one is called Thomas Bach or Bach, I'm not really sure how to pronounce this one, and it's another really famous winery on Waiheke Island. This winery is a pretty small scale winery compared to most of the wineries on Waiheke Island, and the tour is really cool. It's basically a tasting and touring while we are making our way throughout the whole winery while sipping on the wines that they have to offer. It's a very different approach to this whole wine experience things, as usually you do the tour and then you taste afterward or vice versa. I really like this approach.
These tanks that you see here, they're our Prosecco tanks. They're told a little bit like minions, painted yellow, don't breathe on them. But yeah, they are pressure vessels, and essentially what we do, we start a second fermentation.
We get to taste some really different wines here at the Thomas Bach Winery, with the highlight being the only endemic sparkling wine on Waiheke Island, but we also get to taste a couple of whites and reds and even a delicious sweet dessert wine, which goes fantastic with these awesome views. We feel so lucky that the clouds have parted and the rain has gone just as we are getting to some of the best views on Waiheke Island. And to take in more of those views, the Thomas Batch restaurant has these windows overlooking the amazing scenery, including the little beaches, the inlets of the island, as well as forest as far as the eye can see. The drive to the next winery on the list, however, gives us more amazing views of Waiheke Island overlooking rows and rows of vineyards.
Until I say stop.
This is the entrance of the world famous winery, which is Mudbrick. It's probably the most popular winery name you will hear when you go on Waiheke Island. It has a beautiful estate and the main house is actually entirely made of bricks, you guessed it, and it's an amazing place to taste wines. During this tasting, we are actually tasting 5 different types of wines from their premier range, which means that all those wines that we are tasting right now come from grapes which have been grown right here on Waiheke Island. We are tasting a beautiful Syrah, a Bordeaux style blend, a Cabernet Sauvignon, a Chardonnay, and Laura is cheekily requesting to taste one of their Riesling because it's what Mudbrick is actually really famous for. It's really the good thing with Ananda Tours, it's pretty specific, so we actually got to request which winery we wanted to go to, which is quite awesome, and on top of that they are the one driving us all around, so we actually can go full on the wine tasting, which we definitely appreciate. Plus on top of that we actually have plenty of time for ourselves, so for example Mudbrick benefits from absolutely stunning views on all the landscape that Waiheke has to offer between all the farmlands and the beautiful ocean view, so we actually get the time to check that out before hopping back on the van to our next destination. But our next destination is actually not a winery. We've done enough wine right now and we are definitely really tipsy. We are checking out Onetangi Beach, which is one of the most popular beaches on Waiheke Island. This is where all the locals go to hang out, walk their dog, try their hand at surfing, or actually professionally surfing. I don't really know what this guy was all about. And then we are heading back to Hekeria Lodge, which is our accommodation for our Waiheke experiences. Hekeria Lodge is a super social hostel. Almost every single night they do something as a group, and tonight it's burger night, so everybody is actually helping with the cooking and obviously helping with the eating. And we arrive in a cellar where a lovely girl from the US, which name is Laura. What's the name of the girl from the US?
Chipmunk.
So that girl from the US is called Chipmunk, and